Hey guys, it's Russell the Diesel Man with dieselgiant.com, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about a problem that I have encountered. If you've got a high mileage Volkswagen that's got a manual transmission, this car happens to be a 1998 Jetta Tdi, and it just turned over 352,000 miles. So what happened was I was driving along. It had probably gone a couple miles over 352,000, and I was shifting into third gear and I heard a pop, and all of a sudden my shift lever just kind of went to where it's got way too much play. Even when it's in gear, it's got too much play. All right, now it goes in gear fine, but just absolutely, this is unacceptable. Now on the Volkswagens, and specifically the A3s, you have an assembly here that's underneath this boot, and you have an assembly that's on top of the transmission that's where the shift tower is. So I wanted to show you exactly, the first thing that I would check is the thing that's the easiest, which is actually in the engine compartment. So if you find that your gear shift lever is really sloppy like this, it should not be like this, and it shouldn't be able to pull up and down like that. Now it still goes into reverse, but this is what you need to do. All right, if you've got the leather boot like I have on here, or if you've got the rubber boot, they both attach the same way. Just gently pull the base of it, and the boot will basically just come off like that. There is a lip. Let me see if I can focus down there. There's a lip that goes all the way around that the edge of this tucks under. That's how the boot sits in there. So this is the inside of a TDI's shift area, and this is going to be the same style that you're going to find on the TDIs and I believe on the VR6s. The regular gas Jettas and Golfs have a different assembly in here, but let me try to show you exactly what happened. See that bushing right there? There's 6 different bushings that are all in the assembly of this. There's a bushing here, there is a bushing here, there's some other bushings underneath there, and this spring right here is not supposed to be flopping around like that. Part of the problem is the spring is supposed to wrap around the bushing, but now there's no bushing because it has broken. But you can see how this is just flopping around. So what I'm going to do is tell you guys there's actually 2 ways to fix this, or 2 ways to approach this job. Number one is you can attempt to do it from inside the car, or number 2, you can go and drop the exhaust. The portion of the exhaust that's right under here. You can drop the heat shield that's under there, and the entire shift box will come down. Now, inside, at the very bottom, there are 2 cables. One cable, as you can see right there, that is called the forward and aft cable. And there's another cable that you're not going to be able to see that controls the side-to-side motion when you change gates like this. So that's not really important. I know most people probably have not seen inside the business end of what happens when you shift gears. A lot of times this clip right here will pop off and will cause looseness, but I'm going to try, let me get my hand in the way. I'm going to put this spring where it's supposed to go so you can kind of see. It's very hard to do with one hand. Okay, that's basically how the spring is supposed to be. It's supposed to have one side on this bottom portion of this sheet metal gate and the other on the other side. Now, it doesn't do anything for the clearance. It's there, but you see it's just popping off because, well, the bushings broke. So anyway, before I get into this, I'm going to show you guys the front part of this shifting mechanism, which is on top of the transmission. That part of my car is fine. It's just we need to replace these bushings. Alright, well here's the engine compartment, and on the driver's side you've got your power steering reservoir here, and right here, see if I can focus in on that, that is the shift tower, and that's the shift weight. And basically when you move the lever, gear shift lever, it moves this way and also up and down depending on which gear you're in. So a lot of times there is a bearing down inside of here that can cause very loose shifting. You've got a joint here that can cause the same thing. So but on my car this part is fine. I have no problems with the feel of the shift. I have no problems with it going into gear before the bushings broke, and I still can get it into gear just fine, but it's got way too much slop. So as I said before, we're going to replace the bushings and the front to get this tightened up. Alright, we need to get a little bit of working room in here. So on this particular model, on the Jetta, we're going to remove this trim piece that's around the shifter. So just very gently pull up on one side, then pull up on the other side, and this will just slip right off. It's got these 6 tabs that correspond to the 6 holes. Now, this piece that's right here is adjustable this way. Okay, so you need to scribe a mark either on this side or on the other side, right there, right here on this piece, so that when you loosen this bolt, when you go to put everything back together, you can, because it's going to move like that. Alright guys, well, you know, I wish I had better news to tell you about how to do this job, but I'm just going to cut right to the chase. That is what you're trying to get to. That is the shift box, and there is no good way to do this. What I had to do, and depending on which model, if you've got a Passat, a Jetta, or a Golf, they may have different ways that the catalytic converter comes off, but you are going to have to drop this exhaust down. Now, on the Jetta, there's a joint right here, and there's a joint right here, right before the muffler. So what I was able to do was I disconnected the muffler here, let it hang down. I took the clamp off that joint, and I took the clamp off the catalytic converter. Now, on some models, the catalytic converter will disconnect right at the front, where it comes out of the, or where it attaches to the exhaust manifold. Unfortunately, my catalytic converter attaches, the next attachment point from there is to the exhaust manifold, and I was no way going to try to, I can't even get my hand in there. So what I did was I loosened and got this apart. I was able to slide the exhaust back, here's the attaching points to here, it hangs down. So I was able to slide it back about 6 inches. I did not do anything else with the back of the exhaust. It's on these rubber mounts, and was able to disconnect that, which allowed the catalytic converter to drop down. And what that allowed me to do is remove the heat shield. Now the heat shield is what you're trying to remove. It's these two pieces there. It's that long piece there and that other piece. I don't know why this is not focusing, right there. So then go ahead and remove both of the hold down bolts that are on the bottom plate. I've already removed one before I turn the camera on. Okay, so the last thing that holds the box to the sheet metal of the car is a 13mm bolt. It's right there. Now, what I did is I just took a wrench I had, an old gear wrench, and bent it There's no way to get a wrench in there, so that would necessitate having to either remove this console or maybe using a crow's foot, appropriate size, or just bending a wrench like I did. Okay, well, I was going to tell you guys to remember to remove these 10mm nuts, and as I was doing it, well, the box dropped down completely. So, yeah, that's all that holds this box in is those two 10mm nuts and the 13mm right there. And it comes out as one assembly. Now, if you'll notice, the cables are still attached, so we'll have to go underneath the car and detach those so I can remove the box and work on it on the bench. Alright, so once I have the shift box down and laying somewhat similar to the way I have it now, I've got to remove these tabs right here. There's 3 of them on each side. I'm just going to take a screwdriver, bend the tabs back, and this bottom plate will come off. There is a gasket under there. And that will give us access to the 2 cotter pins that hold the ends of the lines right here, or the cables. Alright, once the bottom plate comes off, you'll have I'm sorry about the lighting, but you'll have a cotter pin there, and then there's one right there on that cable. So I'm going to take those 2 cotter pins off, then I'm going to take these 2 bolts out, or these 2 nuts there, and I'll be able to take the box completely away from the car and leave the cables hanging. Okay, so here is the shift box now out of the car, and there's not much to it. I can already see that one of the bushings, the ball that's right there, there's supposed to be a bushing on that. It's completely gone. So yeah, we're going to replace all of them. I'm going to show you how to rebuild this box, and hopefully this thing will be nice and tight when we're done with it. Alright, we want to remove the 2 13mm bolts that hold the assembly to the sheet metal box. Now once that's done, you can hold the box itself and slide the shift assembly out like this. So what we've got is we've got our sheet metal box, and there's nothing that we need to do to this at all. Just make sure not to lose the 2 rubber spacers that are here. I'm going to replace this gasket. You can choose to replace that if you want. Now before you go ripping into this, I highly suggest that that you kind of study how it's put together. It's not very complicated, but what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be replacing this piece here. I'm going to be replacing a bushing here. There are 2 bushings that are here I'm going to replace. And on the bottom, right there, there's a bushing that goes on that little ball end. So, however you want to do it, it's good if you want to take some pictures, maybe just watch this video, but the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this clip right here. Do not lose this clip. And then that will allow me to remove this whole assembly here. And that's what the clip looks like. So set that aside. Spill my drink. Alright, again, taking this bolt out will allow us to slide this shaft all the way out. Okay, the shaft comes out just like that. And what I'm trying to do is, there's the bushing. So this is one of the main bushings that broke. It's actually 2 bushings, but the white bushing is kind of like a spring retainer, and this bushing right here is the bushing that was up against this, which allowed the shift assembly to wobble around. So I'm just going to keep these parts in their relative position. Just remember, when you put this shaft back in, you've got to insert that bushing. Now, on the bottom here, there's a ball assembly. If you can see that. So, just very gently okay, this whole thing will come out just like this. Alright? And this just pops off. And then we've got this assembly right here. Well, there it is. There's the piece of the ball. Okay, I always wondered where that was, so anyway, it's pretty simple and ingenious. Here's a good shot of one of the bushings we're going to be replacing here. And of course, that bushing there was the main offender. I'm going to be replacing this and the bushing down here. So let me clean this up a little bit and we'll start over. Alright, well, I took some brake cleaner and a paper towel and just got my aim was to get out the lint and dust that was mixed with the grease. This doesn't have to be hospital clean. We're going to re-grease everything. So the first bushing I'm going to be replacing is this one right here. And now note that the hole is off center, so it's facing up. So just take a screwdriver and very gently pop that out. I'm going to take my brand new bushing, that just a little, and the hole went up. So I'm just going to pop it in like that. It's not a real tight fit. So that's bushing number 1. Now, this ball right here is, I'm told, the most difficult part of everything. So now, hopefully this is not going to end in a disaster. This ball is slightly flexible. Okay, as you can see, the ball is now on. So what I did was, I tried a bunch of different ways and fumbled around with it for about 10 minutes. I tried heating it with water and a bunch of other tricks, and that didn't work. So what I did was, I took a very, very small flat-bladed screwdriver and also an awl. It's like a little, got a sharp point on it. And I took the rubber and I squeezed it to the side. I put it to the side of this, and as I had it pressed there, I took my small bladed screwdriver and just got it up under there just enough to bring the edge around, and then I took the awl and very gently moved it around. Once you get one little tiny piece of this around the largest part of this ball, then you can go ahead and slide it on. So that's on there now. So we've got our bushing here, we've got this here, so this piece is done. Now there's really nothing to do to this one right here except clean it, because these bushing in the spring, that's going to slide on when we put everything back together. So now this piece. So make sure that you have all of the bushings that you need, first thing we've got to do is we've got to get this spring right here off. There's a spring, there's a little retaining washer, and there's a small plastic piece fitment right there. So let me fiddle with this just a minute before, so I don't waste time on camera, and then I'll give you the solution. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do this up close on camera without the spring. As you can see, I've gotten this off. There's the bushing, and there's the spring. Now, the bushing will go all the way down, but it won't go down that far with the spring on. And this right here, this piece just goes in that groove, and with the spring pressing against this right here, the bushing fits. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a groove up under there. So the best way I found to do this, again, after trial and error, is 2 flat-bladed screwdrivers. If you'll just place the flat-bladed screwdrivers at the very top of the spring on both sides and push down, okay, get it down far enough, it'll drop this bushing down about that far, and then you can slide this piece right out. It comes right out. There's a small groove right there, and this cap just fits right there. Okay, so with that out of the way, and I apologize, when you're doing this by yourself, it's very hard to be able to film and I only have 2 hands. Anyway, so this piece right here slides right off like that. Okay, and I've got a new one of those, and I've got a new bushing that I'm going to be installing. Now this bushing is still good, but it's a little thin, so while I've got this whole assembly apart, it's dumb for me not to replace everything. So this also is it is a wear item. It doesn't look like there's a lot of wear in here. I probably could have gotten by without replacing this, but again, they're not that expensive. So now there's another bushing. Well, this is actually just like a rubber grommet. That I did not get, so I do not have a new one of those. But it's only a it's not a bushing. All it does is rest this white piece rest on there. So I'm going to go ahead and get my new pieces. I'm going to clean this up, and then we'll be right back. Okay, I just noticed this. If you notice, the 2 parts are not really the same. The part numbers on both parts are identical, but if you'll notice on my old part, it has this fat lip up here, and this does not have that lip. So this obviously is a redesigned version, but I'm still using the new one. I'm going to go ahead and use it. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit of our moly grease, and I'm going to coat this. Once that's done, make sure that the ridges go towards the bottom. So we're just going to spin that on like that. Okay. Now the fun comes. What we've got to do is we've got to get our new bushing. Don't forget the bushing. Remember, that was the old one. And the spring's going to go on. Then the bushing's going to go on. Now it's probably no problem to put this on. I'm going to go ahead and try it. It's a very, very tight spring. Okay, so putting it back on, you don't need any tools at all. Okay, that's much, much smoother than the original one. And I don't see any problem at all with the way the spring is sitting on there. Everything looks good. Remove this clip. There's a clip right here, just like that was holding that to the shaft. And again, I'm just going to take a screwdriver, just very gently pry this up. Alright, so now we've got this shaft assembly. Just going to pull this out. Okay. So there's nothing to do on here except clean this up. This bushing right here, see if it's got a part number on it. It doesn't, but I can see that it's the same. This one's clear, but it is the same bushing. So just take a screwdriver and see if you can just gently pry that out. Okay, there's a tab, a little notch here that fits inside this notch. Alright, so I'm basically going to take my new bushing and I'm going to go ahead and put it in there. Now, you'll notice it's got two little tabs on the side. What you're concerned about is this main tab right here, which goes into the tab right there. So those little ones are flexible and it just goes in just like that. Okay, and the two little ears pop out, so that's nice and stable now. Okay, so this part is done. All we've got to do is end up greasing that properly. Now I'm going to take, again, there's no bushings or anything on this this arm. This arm is extremely dirty, so I'm going to go clean this and then reinstall the arm back into this assembly here. Okay, we've got our arm nice and clean, so I'm going to take a little bit of our moly grease and I'm going to lubricate the pivot point. And then I'm going to put some grease in the bushing so that when the pivot point slides up in there, it'll keep that bushing greased. Alright, so go ahead and just insert that up in there. Alright, so I'm going to take our clip here and I'm going to go ahead and just pop that back on, and then I'm going to rotate it. Rotate the clip this way. By rotating it this way, there's no way that clip can come off. The clip has to be rotated and put that way. So now we've got, this is very, very smooth, much smoother than it was before. Okay, so that's the only bushing that we've got to replace here. So we've got that done. We've got our shift lever done. We've got our two we've got our ball bushing here and this bushing here. Now, right here is where our other bushing, which is the one that originally broke, is going to go. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this. Go ahead and clean this shaft up. We can get rid of this. Obviously, these are 2 bushings and our spring. Remember, the long arm of the spring is going to go in the up position. Okay, so this is our bushing. This was the original bushing that broke. And compared to the old one, you can see the lip of it broke. That allowed it to slide all over the place. The way that it's supposed to go is it's supposed to go inside here. So you've got one tab here, one tab that's going to go and lock into one of these notches, and you've got 2 notches here. So what's going to happen is you've got 2 notches in there. So I'm just going to slide the bushing in like that. And I'm going to rotate it. And I'm going to put it in one of those. It doesn't matter if it's in the top or the bottom notch. And that locks the bushing in. And then when I'm going to take our new spring, and it's gonna, this is just a spring retainer, and when I insert the shaft, I'm going to have this in, and I'm going to, but remember I said to have that at the top, so it goes this way. Okay, just like this. Okay, that worked. All right, so I guess I can go ahead and put that on. So now that's on there tight. The new spring has also got some, like a rubberized coating on the tip, probably so it doesn't make noise when it engages. But now everything's nice and tight in there. So this is done. Now what we need to do is I need to put some grease in this ball cup right here. We've got to put this shaft on before I put this in, or we're not going to be able to get it all the way in. So same thing, I'm just going to grease this long pin up. Make sure that you don't have this turned around. There's a flat spot inside here. Okay, on this shaft there's a flat spot, and you have to make sure to push this and turn this, or else it won't go in. There we go. Okay, so that's how the linkage goes. Okay, that feels nice and tight. Okay, and then this, again, this clip goes on the same way. This tab goes up. And I'm just going to press that on like that, and you'll hear it clip in. And now we've got our shaft on there just like that. All right, now the fun. We've got to get this inside this pocket. See if I can back this out just a little bit. We've got to get this inside the pocket, also getting that ball end inside its groove, simultaneously putting the shaft pin in. I'm going to move this all the way back so you guys can see. The best thing to do is to try to, there we go. So what I did was I lined up that ball that's inside here as I dropped this down. Okay, that sure went in a lot easier than it came out. All right, now the next thing we've got to do is I've got to take this shaft here. I'm going to do the same thing to this. I'm going to lubricate it with our grease. Okay. All right, so I've got that all the way in there. What I need to do is I need to get, let me wipe my hands off here. I need to get the springs. That bottom arm is here and this top arm goes right there. So the springs ride like that. Boy, that is super nice and just nice and tight. Okay. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to reinstall this bolt right here. I'm going to line up my two lines that I made earlier and then clean this up a little bit and show you what we've got. Alright, well, I've got the box cleaned up. I went ahead and put the top gasket on. I took the old bottom gasket off and put the new one on. I highly, highly recommend that you replace this gasket at a minimum because this is what seals the unit from any moisture or dirt or dust, any road debris from getting up in the box. This thing is, I am very, very pleased. This thing is tight as a drum. Okay, so basically the rebuild of the box is done. Now I'm not going to try to attempt to try to film putting this back in the car. Installation is the reverse of disassembly. I did get two other gaskets in addition to this. This gasket right here goes right there. That's where our two cables go. And then these two rubber washers go here and here to put the bolts on for the cable box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a well-deserved break. I'm going to put this back in the car, and once everything is back together, then I'll let you see the difference that this rebuilt box makes. Alright guys, I just got back from a test drive, and I've got to tell you that I am absolutely flabbergasted at how nice this thing shifts now. There's absolutely, positively no vibration whatsoever. Every gear goes in smooth. You know, driving this car for the last 16 years, I didn't realize that maybe for the last 150,000 miles there was a slight vibration that I would feel through the stick, even though it really wasn't what I would perceive as loose. It is 100% gone. So this job probably should have been done at the 200,000 mile mark. And the car now has got 352,044 miles. So I am 110% satisfied with this. I'm very glad I did it now. And this is just, I'm just thrilled to death with it. It feels like it's new again. So I hope this video helped you guys. This video is going to end up being around 40 minutes, so I want to keep this short. Please, if you do this job, just watch the video completely. It's not a hard job. It's a little bit of a pain because you've got to do a bunch of stuff under the car, but it is fully within the scope of any do-it-yourselfer to accomplish. So this is the Diesel Man signing off.